Hiya, it's Lucy Brand here of Business Goddess Awakening, and today I just want to do a quick thing. So I've just been for what I like to call a walk jog because I don't run. My calf muscles are really tight, so it just doesn't agree with me. But I was outside, and also I had a conversation with my landlord the other day about breathing techniques. And I really want to share this with you because this breathing technique is just amazing for me. It has been. I've been practicing it for a few years. But I first want to backtrack. So I've always really struggled with breathing. I found it really difficult, and I just found that whenever I breathe, like I would get to a certain point, and if I was doing yoga or any kind of exercise, I would get to a certain point, but I could never, when they'd say breathe in a bit more, I could never actually do it. And I didn't really think about it. I didn't really bother about it. Sorry, it's really cold outside, and I've just come back before I take my shower, so and I never really thought about it. And then I went on a yoga retreat in Thailand a few years back, and I had a one-on-one session with an amazing yogi, like an incredible yogi. And he said, you actually breathe backwards. That's what your problem is. And I was like, oh, okay. So what he meant by that is every time I have to really think about this. I still have to think, if I think about my breathing, I really have to think about it, if that makes sense. When I breathed in, I contracted my diaphragm. So I moved it up, so therefore I couldn't actually expand my lungs. And then when I breathed out, is that the right way? I expanded my diaphragm. Well, basically, I had it the wrong way around. So we tried to do it with me breathing on the floor, 10 breaths, how you should properly be breathing. And I was concentrating on when I breathed in to expand my diaphragm. And it was really hard. I couldn't do it because I've spent years breathing the wrong way. And I think I managed about 3 breaths, but it was really hard. Anyway, came back, didn't really think, I tried to, if I'd remember, I try to focus on my breathing, but I didn't really think much of it. And then I was in a Garuda class here in my home, and Garuda is like a cross between Pilates and yoga. And I was in the class, and basically when you do, I can't remember what the move's called, but when you put one arm in front of the other, and you pull it up and you bring it down, I think kind of eagle pose, I think. When I put my arms up, I got huge chest pains, like really bad chest pains. And I couldn't breathe properly, and I panicked, I really panicked, because I was like, what's going on? Like, I'm really young, I'm relatively healthy, but I really panicked. And so I curled up in a little ball and just tried to breathe. And my amazing teacher, she said, I really want you to go and see my friend who is a cranial osteopath. I'd never even heard of one. I didn't know what one did. But she was like, 'cause I'm worried about you. And she's amazing. And she is indeed amazing. So I went to see her, and I told her what had happened. And I told her about the breathing backwards, and it came out. And so she got me to stand against the wall and just looked at my back, just had her hands on my back. And she said, there's a really old pattern here. There's something not quite right. Like, there's a really old pattern here. Did something happen when you were born? And I was trying to think about it, and I was like, no, I don't think so. And then I remembered, excuse me, when I was born, basically I was born, and then I went blue. I stopped breathing. So I was taken off my mum, which explains loads about my separation anxiety from a really young age. Like, I suffered terribly with anxiety from separation from my mum, but took me away from my mum, put a tube down me, and this is back in the 80s as well, put a tube down me to suck all the mucus out. So I started breathing again. But then gave me back to my mum, but then about 20 minutes or so later, it happened again. Like, I stopped breathing and I went blue. So they took me off my mum again, and they put the tube down me and sucked all the mucus out. I started breathing again. But what had happened is where they'd held me to put the tube down, because I was a newborn, and they're obviously probably panicking a bit because I've gone blue, all of this was bruised, including my ribs. So as a baby, when I breathed in, it hurt. So I got used to staying small, if you like, keeping my lungs small and not breathing properly. So what she did, I don't really understand how cranial osteopathy works, but it's amazing. I highly recommend it. What she did is then put her hands and manipulated the muscles on my back, and then got me to take a breath. Now, this is the first time I'd actually breathed properly in my whole entire life. I can't remember. I was in my early 30s. And it was the first time I breathed properly in my entire life. And it was incredible because I actually felt the air that I was breathing in going all the way down to my hips, which is a sensation I'd never experienced before because it just stopped at my diaphragm. So I took in this really deep breath and then let it go. And I did another 2, and that was it. I was as high as a kite because I'd never had that much oxygen to my brain before. I'd never had that much oxygen to my body. And it was just amazing, like absolutely amazing. And since that point, I had to really work on like concentrating on my breathing to be able to do that and retrain my muscles. But now it's just amazing. Like it improved everything. It improved my kind of performance in exercise. It improved my skin. It improved my moods, because breathing is such a fundamental thing. But we just forget about it, and we're not taught how to breathe, are we? Like, it's the most fundamental thing, and we are not taught how to breathe properly, let alone if there is something wrong where you're not breathing properly. But just think about if I'd have kept going at that rate, I'd have still been playing small. My lungs would have never been properly expanding. My brain would have never been getting all the oxygen it could. And the same with my muscles. I share this, and afterwards, I was just so giggly, and I'm quite a giggly person anyway, but I went down to reception and I couldn't even get my card out of my wallet to pay because I was just laughing so much. Everything was so funny. And then the receptionist called me by my second name rather than my first name. That was hilarious. And she was like, I think you should just sit here, Lucy, for 20 minutes and have a cup of tea. And then there was another guy in there who was like, I want what she's had. But that was it. And it literally changed my life. And now I can do exercise properly without getting out of breath and things like that. But the breathing technique I want to share with you is one that I learned years later. I'm not quite sure where I found it, but I think it's a yoga technique, and I'm not sure what the name of it is. But what you do, but it just allows me to really truly breathe. And if you're sitting at your desk all day working or whatever you're doing, even when I'm running, sometimes I do this because for me it really helps me to breathe in more. So you put your thumb on here. I think it's your third finger, I think so, or maybe your first on there. But then breathe in through one nostril, all the way up. And then hold it for 5. Hold it for 5. And then breathe out. And then breathe up that nostril. And then breathe out. And then breathe up. Hold for 5. And breathe out the other nostril. And do that for about 10 breaths. And now, oh my gosh, I feel amazing now just when I do a couple of breaths. But it just really helps. And then I would suggest moving if you are just standing still. Get the oxygen flowing, get the blood flowing. It's about taking a holistic approach and remembering to breathe. Okay, lovelies, I shall see you soon. I need to have a shower, and I'll see you in the next video. Love you. Bye.